Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, depending on where you are in the world, obviously. Welcome to Friday again in this Groundhog Day mad place we're in. If you are there, please type a hello in the comments so that I know I'm not talking to myself. And Maria wins the prize of being first. Yay! Good morning, Maria. Pop a comment in there to say hello, just so I know I'm not talking to myself. I know now I'm talking to Maria, so that's fine. Hello, Maria. Hope you're all right. Let's turn off the pingy thing on the machine. Good morning, Leslie. Welcome to Friday. We have lots of sunshine still in my little corner of southeast England. Good morning, Sue. Sunshine, a little bit windy out there. Going to get the washing out today. That'll dry really quick. Oh, that makes me sound so old, doesn't it? It's a good day for drying the washing. Good morning, Emma. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Nikki. Good morning, Sylvie. Lots of good mornings. Sue loves the bee cushion. Yeah, isn't it sweet? Like bees in this house. The bee actually came to me a couple of years ago. It's my animal spirit guide to help me through the menopause. It's a tough job. Good morning, Karen. In Manchester, but the sun's shining. That's cool. Good morning, Petronella. Looking lovely, Rachel. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much. You're very kind. It's good lighting. It's very deceptive. Good morning, Lizzie. Just made it with my breakfast. Good. We like breakfast. Good morning, Rhiannon from York. Excellent. Very, very beautiful city. Must get up there again sometime. Good morning, Eva. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Rachel. Good morning, Jenny. Wow, loads of people again. You guys are fantastic. Good morning, Teresa. You guys are absolutely mad or fantastic or both. One or the other. One or the other? Both something. Whew, let's get my words and my brain into action. Got to do some talking. Interesting subject today, and it's a request from a very lovely lady. She asked me to talk about labyrinths, but that kind of, as it does with my brain. Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Jessie. As my brain does, it took labyrinths and went off on a tangent. So I thought today we could look at all kinds of sacred spaces, not just labyrinths. We've got all sorts of sacred sites and sacred places, cemeteries, graveyards, crossroads, ley lines, burial mounds, crossroads in the city, not just country crossroads, and hill figures, and also symbols and in nature. A little bit of sacred geometry, which does make my head explode, but I'll do my best to cover it. Emma has a labyrinth where she works. Fantastic. Actually, my first question is to all of you. And as always, if you have any questions throughout the chat, do just pop them in the comments and I will do my very best to answer them. Emma lives beside a churchyard. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. I'd love to live beside a graveyard. It'd be fantastic. There's a difference between a churchyard and a cemetery and a graveyard difference, but we'll come to that. So my question to you guys is sacred places. When you think about a sacred place, where do you think of? Where is the most sacred place to you? If I said to you, right, I've got a Star Trek transporter, or I've got a Stargate gate, or the Asgard beam-in technology, where would you go? Where would be this most sacred space that you would go to? Good morning, Penelope. And I wait for your answers. She says, hopefully someone will tell me where your most sacred place is. Where would you like to visit, or where do you visit that you find is the most sacred place to you? Jessie says, let's have a look here. We'll put them up here. Look. An ancient woodland. Yep, nice, very nice. I must admit, I'm more of an open kind of field girl myself, but woodlands are always fantastic. Lisa would go to her garden. Yep, I'm with you, Lisa. I think one of the most sacred places to me is my own garden. And Karen is going with Stonehenge, one of the classics. I have been very, very honoured to attend several rituals within the centre of Stonehenge. It is an amazing place. I have to be honest, it's not my favourite stone circle. I think it's had so many tourists over the years. I go back to the early 70s when my dad used to take us there for picnics, before it was all fenced off. I think it's lost a little bit for me with all the tourists, but definitely a very special place still. Sue says a stone circle. In fact, one of the most amazing stone circles I've ever been to was right out in the middle of Dartmoor. And Dartmoor is, for me, one of the most magical places ever. And there was a stone circle there, just, sitting there in the middle of nowhere. Maria's going to go to Avalon. I'm assuming you don't actually mean that you've died and gone to Avalon, as in, beyond the Vales. The Isle of Avalon, Glastonbury, I'm assuming you mean, Maria. Again, a very, very fascinating place. Not my particular favourite. I think it has got a little bit commercialised in some of the spaces. Some of the shops are amazing. The Chalice Well is fantastic, although it always makes me want to cry. I think for me, the Abbey Gardens are one of the most amazing places in Glastonbury. Lisa's suggesting Avebury. Yes, fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful place. The Kitchen Witch gang kidnapped me on my 50th birthday and took me to Avebury for the day. It was amazing. Lizzie says, anywhere there are trees. Yep, trees are always good. Teresa says woodland as well. Yeah, again, it's funny, isn't it? It's a very personal thing. I think trees and woodlands are beautiful, but for me, it would be the wide open spaces of Dartmoor or Cornwall, the landscape of Cornwall. Karen in the south, Tintagel. Oh, yes, one of my favourite places. Arborough or Daltor, and I haven't been to either of those places. They sound fascinating. Teresa says the ocean. Yep, that's one for me as well. The ocean is just amazing. Bria's are like Ankh-Morpork. I think you might need a bodyguard, but yeah, you could walk across the river, literally. Yeah, wouldn't that be fascinating to be able to go to Ankh-Morpork? Definitely. I might want a guide. Probably not Rincewind, though. Rachel, the Chalice Well Gardens and my own garden. Yeah, the Chalice Well is beautiful. I have a slight problem in that I have to shield quite heavily in the Chalice Well. I think where everybody goes there and releases emotions, because it is obviously a well, so there's lots of water going on, I tend to pick up on that. But it is a beautiful, beautiful place. I actually like the White Springs on the other side of the road. That's a fascinating place if you can get in there when it's open. Lots of comments now, and I'm losing myself in them. There we go. Yep, Leslie's another one for Avalon. Jenny, woodlands and stone circles. Yep, there is something very special about stone circles, isn't there? I think perhaps the mystery, because we don't really know. Emma, one of the beautiful stone circles in the Lake District. Not been to the Lake District. Supposedly a very, very beautiful place. Jesse's dad used to take Stonehenge too. Yeah, see, back in the 70s, before it was all fenced off, you could literally just walk around it and sit and have your picnic there. Deirdre, live near the Hill of Tara, and oh wow, Cairns in Ireland. Favourite sacred places. Beautiful, beautiful, Deirdre. Very, very lucky. Tess, garden or the seaside. Yep. Sylvie, an Egyptian temple. Not been to one of those. I would imagine it would be absolutely fascinating there. Jess, the White Springs. Yeah, I do. The White Springs is a fascinating place. If you can get in, I led my first ever ritual as a high priestess in the White Springs in the dark with all the candles lit. It was fascinating. Definitely had some visitors from other places with us that day. Yeah, Glastonbury again for Leslie. Lizzie lives in Wales, many places to go. Throw a stone and you'll find somewhere sacred. Yeah. And I don't think you spelt it wrong, Maria, did you? Ankh-Morpork? We don't worry about things like that. Trees are red rocks of Sedona. That's AZ, that's Arizona, isn't it? I've seen images of it. It does look amazing. Jay, going to be on a hilltop. Yep, definitely, with the winds blowing. Christine's going to Whitby Abbey. Not been there. Morning, Sue. You don't have to apologise for being late. And Eric is sitting out in the conservatory in the sunshine. And Emma is feeling the need for warmth. Beach on the resort in Mauritius where you honeymooned. Oh, bless. In the evening when all is quiet under the moon. Waves on the reef were just beautiful. Oh, that does paint a fantastic picture. And Sue, granite tours on Dartmoor. I think there is, for me, Dartmoor is one of the most amazing places. It's got such a mysterious air to it. Beautiful, beautiful. Rhiannon, the Highlands, yeah. Up Scotland has some amazing scenery. Sea, Sue, it's the sea, yeah, definitely the sea. Leslie's going for Glencoe, beautiful. Nikki, Pacific Northwest Coast. I don't know the area. I will trust you on that one, Nikki. Cheddar Gorge. Now, we have been in the caves under Wookie Hole. I was not sure about having all that rock above my head, I must admit. Freaked me out a little bit having all that rock there. Rachel, like sitting on top of a hill in the Chalicewell Garden looking at it. Yeah, it's very, very peaceful there, isn't it? Very, very beautiful. Maria, another one for the woods. Yep. It's a good one from Eva. Anywhere there aren't any people or man-made things. Yeah, I'm all for the no people-y place. Sylvie, I heard about a place called, yes, the Poison Garden. I can't remember where it is. There is a poison garden and it is laid out with all of the poisonous herbs and plants in it. Yes, I can't remember where it is now, but there is a place and you can visit it. Sue went to Egypt. Hubby said he was templed out. Yeah, I can understand that. Emma says there is a children's book called The Poison Diaries based around the Poison Garden. I'm not sure that's suitable for children, but I'd like the sound of it. Rose, like, yeah, Dartmoor is beautiful. The garden is your sanctuary. Definitely. Good morning, Christine. Yeah, Facebook is apparently struggling with some lives at the moment. It keeps telling people that they can't see the feed, but it is there. Apparently, they are trying to sort it out. Lizzie, having said trees, I would have to say my absolute ideal place would be the Conham. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's, yeah. I think anything along the coastline is beautiful anyway, isn't it? Rachel, St Nectan's Glen in the rain in January. Yes, the one and only time that we visited St Nectan's Glen, it was raining. We got covered in mud from head to foot. But it is a very beautiful place. Yeah, there's a poison garden in Cheddar. There you go. All right, the one we're talking about is in Alnwick in Northumberland. Emma has put the link in there in the comments. Christine, Knowlton does it for me, or the Chalicewell Gardens. Knowlton is fantastic. If anybody ever gets a chance to visit Knowlton down in Dorset, it's the site of an ancient Saxon church, and it has got a very, very, very special energy to it. Huntston for me too, as my late dad was into motorbikes and often rode there. Yeah, places have memories. We're going to get onto that. Places do have memories. Fantastic. And Lexi has a river at the bottom of the garden. Oh, amazing. We hang a hammock. I'm not allowed a hammock. I'd love a hammock. My husband thinks I'd fall out of it all the time. Probably right. Probably right. So lots and lots of different places. I am quite surprised actually that Dartmoor came up so often. That is one of my favourite places, and Cornwall as well. But my garden, and I think that a sacred space or a sacred place is different for everybody. But I also don't think that we should limit ourselves to, oh, I need to go to a sacred space, I've got to travel to Glastonbury or to Dartmoor or whatever, when it could be your own front room, it could be your own living room, it could be your own garden. Emma's put the Leper Chapel in Cambridge. We were supposed to go to Cambridge back in May for 2 days. We had 2 days in Cambridge to look around because we've not been there before, but for obvious reasons it was cancelled. Hopefully we will get there in the future. Fingers crossed. I love cities actually. Bath is one of my favourite cities as well. There is something very special about that. It definitely got a magic to that place, but particularly the Roman baths, obviously. But the whole city's got a magic feel to it. But I think, yeah, see, Rhiannon, I tried to make my whole cottage and garden my sacred space. And I think for me, that's what's important. You don't have to travel miles and miles for a sacred space, because you can make your own place and your own area with you. Everything has an energy. It doesn't matter whether it's your living room or a car park or some 1970s monstrosity in the middle of a city. Everything has fantastic energy. Everything has. Lisa is in Cambridge. Oh, I shall tap you up when we finally get to Cambridge then, Lisa, for some places to visit. Sue, if I cannot get out here, perfect. I have a sacred grove in my mind which I visit. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. We make it, we create it. Lizzie, I can see the Black Mountains from my garden. I had a magical morning watching the sunrise. I wrote some. Oh, please do share it. Please do share it, Lizzie, in the comments, and people can read it. That's fantastic. Thank you. But I think it's important about tapping into the energy where you live. The land that your house is built on. I mean, our house was built in 1920, but there were houses here before that. There have been settlements in Portsmouth, in the city that I live, since caveman, basically. And there are layer upon layer upon layer of memories, really, held in the land. Whether you call it the spirit place or the ancestors of the place, the land holds on to all of those memories. And I think it's important to make yourself feel at home wherever you live, to connect with the energy of the land that your house is in and that your area is in. I think you'll feel much more at home and much more connected to Mother Earth and to the spirit of the place if you connect with the land that you live on. I think for me, it's really, really important. Whenever we have a Kitchen Witch Open ritual, and we're very blessed to have a grove of trees on top of a country park, I always connect with the ancestors of the land there to make sure that it's okay for us to do a ritual there. I think it's only polite for a start, but I think making that connection to where you are will help the energy of the ritual and help the energy of the day. And I say, it doesn't have to be a park or a field or a hedgerow or anything. It can be a city. Cities all have energy too. Every single building has energy, and all the land underneath it has energy. So it's about tapping into that. The big old 1970s concrete car park in the middle of the city might be a pretty miserable memory, but it's got that energy just the same. The only thing I would warn about is, as I mentioned, the Chalice Well Gardens. Lots of people go to the waters and light candles for those that have passed over, or they release their troubles into it. So I think it's very important to shield yourself to a certain degree if you are particularly empathic, or if you're somewhere such as, we went to Hastings years and years ago. And we visited the Battle of, where it's not quite Hastings, not the town, but where the Battle of Hastings was held. There's an abbey and there's a field where all the battles happened. I got hit with so much negative energy because it had been a battle. So I just be wary of the history of a place and don't just wildly open yourself up to all the energies without doing a little bit of work first, or protecting yourself to a certain degree. But I think it's very, very useful. It's making that connection. It's helping you understand as well the history of the place that you live in. So for me, it's very, very important to get connected to wherever you live, to wherever you are. And I think it's also about trusting your intuition, because have you ever walked into a room or a building or a shop or someone else's home and got that really awful feeling that you don't want to be there, or that there's something a little bit hinky about it? That's about trusting your intuition, and that's picking up on negative energy of the place. Yeah, Kerry said the same. Big churches in London are beautiful, but I feel it's somewhere where shielding is needed. Yeah, you have to be careful. You have to be very, very conscious about it, really. So how would you connect? Okay, so it's all about your intuition and your spidey senses, as I call them. Any of you that worked with energy, and I know some of you have done the lessons where we work with the energy and feeling the energy of plants or of crystals, you do that, but on a larger scale with the building that you're in. If you're in a building, you can put your hand on the wall and connect with the energy of the building. It's about opening up your senses to feel what the building's feeling. If you are in a field, you can draw the energy in from your feet, connect with it via your feet. It is like, say, if you're working with a crystal, you hold on to the crystal and you feel the energy, feel your aura, if you like, of plants and leaves. Trees, when we say hello to a tree, we connect with the energy. It's just doing that on a much larger scale. Do be careful, as I say. Make sure that if you feel anything slightly hinky, you can bring your shields up. So I got hay fever this morning. It's playing a bit of havoc. So do be wary that there might be some negative energies, but you can connect with some really, really wonderful stuff if you do open yourself up carefully to it. So yeah, be careful, but do the same, Sue, as you would with your energy exercises, with feeling energy of crystals, plants. It is just an aura, but on a much bigger scale. Rhiannon went to, I can pronounce that, Culloden battlefield. Yeah, it's bound to have, isn't it? It's a battlefield, so it's bound to have a kind of miserable energy to it. Yeah, Maria's. Couldn't stay in my parents' bedroom as a child and used to run in and out of there. It is. Some rooms do have that feeling, and it may well be that it's because something recent has happened to it. I'm sure you guys all know sometimes your house feels a bit off kilter. You smudge it, you cleanse it, and it's all fine. But some places do hold, that's energy from us. That's arguments and energy that people bring into the house now in the present day. But other places will hold on to energy from, years, hundreds of years before, particularly something like a battlefield or an old prison or somewhere. Mental hospitals are quite frequent places where paranormal do investigations and things, but the energy there is not going to be good. Emma has, Carlisle Castle has a bit you go through called the Licking Wall. Ew. And it's a very dark place. There's a horrific buzz in my head whenever I go near it. Yeah, castles particularly, you've got to think about the history of castles and what went on in them. Probably not very good stuff. Dungeon at Kenilworth Castle. Because it's a dungeon. People were put there probably and to waiting to have their heads chopped off. So just be wary of history of stuff. Remember, you're always in control. If you do happen to open yourself up, and once you do open yourself up to energies, you are kind of setting off a little beacon, flashing light on your head saying, hello, I'm here. And spirits do like to investigate stuff. Remember, you're always in control. If you find yourself being overwhelmed by these energies, bring your shields up. If you find that you've picked up a spirit that's interested in you, and you're not happy about it, just tell them to bugger off, because you are in control, absolutely in control. Sylvie says, parents' house since they've gone, don't like me there. But yeah, it is the feeling of the place. That's probably more to do with your energies there, because it was your parents' house. And yes, it's where they held prisoners. So you'd only get water dripping down the hall. Oh, we can't even begin to imagine what it would be like, can we? Maria says the energies live in the fabric of the place. And even in the ground beneath, as I say, because some buildings have been knocked down and rebuilt, the earth beneath holds all of the energies as well. So that's that was supposed to be a tiny little bit, so that I can now go through the sacred places. I do know how to waffle, don't I? So the thing I wanted to touch on as well was symbols in nature, sacred geometry, if you will. And don't be frightened off by that, because it scares me. But it's actually not. It's not too bad. Mother Nature provides us with a huge amount of natural symbols in her creations. You've only got to look at like fern leaves rolled up, but you'll also find it in the shapes of trees, quite a lot in the lay of the land, in shapes of fields, even from the human constructions. Houses and buildings often have different unintended symbols and shapes in them. You can find them in nature. Twigs, pebbles. Have a look next time you're out and see what symbols and shapes you can see that make you think of magic. Even a triangle, that kind of thing. Circles. It's simple, but it's magical. We cast a circle. It's a cycle: birth, death, rebirth, turning of the wheel. So the circle is probably one of the most magical shapes ever, I think. Pentagram, although you might struggle to see this out when you're out and about. Different religions, different faiths have used the pentagram for years, even the Christians. So you might find it on old churches and things. The Arwen, Druidic pathway, the 3 rays and the 3 dots, they represent inspiration, triple aspect of deity, and the triad of sunrises. Probably not something that you will specifically see, but you might see 3 rays. And anyone that's watched Grimm, I'm now thinking of Black Claw. If you haven't watched it, just scroll on by. The triquetra, which I'm never sure I'm saying it quite right, is the 3 interlocking leaves. You'll probably see that a lot on older churches and buildings. The original meaning, they're not really very sure of. I like to think it represents the triple goddess, but also levels of the earth: land, sea, and sky. Triskelion is one that you might see, particularly in Ireland. It's a triple interlocking spiral, and it's been found carved on lots of ancient sites and believed to represent reincarnation. Spirals you'll find an awful lot. For me, that's the Mother Earth, that's the goddess symbol. The cross, obviously, represents Christianity, but bear in mind that the equal arm cross surrounded with a circle is a sun cross or Odin's cross, and a Celtic cross. It marks seasons and solstices or equinoxes. So the cross is also pagan as well as Christian. And of course the elements, the triangles: air, fire, water, earth. You might see triangles on things as well. So have a look while you're out and about. Lisa says her dog's confident and placid. Happy going for a walk anywhere except one spot just off our high street. Very, very easy. Yeah, animals, I think, are particularly, they will pick up on things. Cats and dogs in particular, and horses as well. They will pick up on things that we can't see or don't understand. So, yeah, always bear in mind that they can see much clearer than us. Maria says the infinity sign. Yep, the infinity sign, that number 8 lying on its side. The other thing to look out for is hill figures. Mysterious hill figures, chalk figures, and animals drawn into the sides of hills, generically known as geoglyphs. That actually sounds like a creature from Harry Potter to me, but it actually is a large design or motif produced on the ground using durable elements of the landscape. They range from human shapes, horses, giants, crosses, geometric shapes, and they can be found across the globe. Although I think possibly we're more used to seeing them in the UK. Sue's cats always sit and watch something all across her living room. Yeah, they pick up on stuff. Cats, dogs, and small children they don't have the kind of, we're bombarded with ideas and thoughts and sensibilities. but they don't worry about that sort of thing. They just see what they see. I'm lucky enough to have several of the hill drawings in our area. The White Horse is probably the closest one to me over in Salisbury Way. For those of you that are Terry Pratchett fans, that's where he lived. That's where the Tiffany books were based upon. Tess has, working with my twins, I look after they're 2 years old and we talk and chatter and giggle as if they're talking to someone. Yeah, not looking at you or their mum. Yeah, because they see stuff. They haven't been bombarded with this idea that we shouldn't see it. So they just do. Why are heel figures there? No one really knows, I don't think. No one has much of an idea. Perhaps they were religious, spiritual, or ceremonial. Who knows? Who knows? It's worth looking in your local area for hill figures and particular sacred sites because it is quite interesting. I will cover labyrinths now, as that was the question that I've been asked. Emma has... I've not been to the White Horse of Uffington, but really want to go and visit. Yeah, and Salisbury's lovely. Salisbury's a nice town to mooch about as well. But the White Horse of Uffington is beautiful. Labyrinths. Okay, so the dictionary definition of a labyrinth is a complicated, irregular network of passages or paths in which it's difficult to find one's way. A maze. That sounds quite dry, doesn't it, and uninteresting. But I think they are actually quite fascinating. There are labyrinths across the globe, and some of them are ancient. Greek mythology does mention them, obviously, with the Minotaur. But I found that a labyrinth is brilliant to walk for a meditative journey. You follow the path, takes you to the centre. You allow your mind to be still, your body to do the movement without thinking about it. Once you're in the centre, you can sit and release your thoughts, your emotions, negative energy. And then as you walk back out, each step brings you more positive energy. There's a small one in the front lawn of the church in Glastonbury High Street. I actually saw a young lady, very flexible young lady, dancing and cartwheeling around the labyrinth while her chap played a panpipe thing. It was quite fascinating. But entering the labyrinth is symbolic. You need to want to cleanse, release, let go. That's the whole idea of it. The center is the divine, it's the sweet spot where you find yourself or you connect with a higher power, or both. And then the journey back out is the new, refreshed you, taking the positive energy with you. You can walk it on your own, or you can share the journey with others. You can make a labyrinth if you've got a load of pebbles or shells, particularly from the beach. Really easy. You could just draw in the sand. But if you've got a bit of space, you can make one with pebbles, with shells, or with little tea lights if you're going to be doing it in the dark. That's fantastic. Sue says St John's, Glastonbury. Yeah, it's the one in the High Street, isn't it? Emma says there's a labyrinth that takes you up to Glastonbury Tor and back down, isn't there? I have no idea, Emma. I don't know about that one. The one I've been to is in St John's, is in the church in the High Street. They are fascinating things. You can make one and sit with one. Even pieces of rope as well would work. You might find there's a labyrinth in your area or a maze. If you can't find a labyrinth, then a maze is a really good sort of second option to work with. But say they are fairly simple to make. You can even draw one on a big sheet of fabric, big old bed sheet, and draw one on it. It's a nice activity to do with a group, actually, if you want to. Emma's put a link, Glastonbury Tor Maze. Oh, I'll look into that, Emma. Thank you. I didn't know about that one. We should have a look. Glastonbury's a couple of hours drive from me, so it's quite handy. The next bit I want to look at is crossroads. Much easier to find. We've all got crossroads, and there are so many folk songs telling us that the devil resides at the crossroads. Although, we're pagans. We don't really need to worry about him, do we? I think what we're more interested in is the belief that the crossing of the roads is a very, very powerful spot. Good morning, Patrice. Where the two roads cross, you get the power spot. The crossroads is the centre. It's the centre of the four winds, the four elements, and the four directions. The centre point links to the two worlds, that of the living and the dead, and it is an in-between place. There are several in-between places. The ocean, where the ocean meets the sea, that's an in-between place. And if you watch the film Labyrinth with David Bowie and his impressive codpiece, the in-between places in that are in the doorways, in the doorway frames. Anywhere that's kind of in between like that is an in-between place. Crossroads is generally a meeting of four pathways, but it can also be three. There's quite a lot of myth about the meeting of three roads to make a crossroads too. Sue's only 20 minutes from Glastonbury. Oh, Sue, we'll let you know next time we're going on a Glastonbury jolly, and we can meet you there. Christine, Facebook keeps making me go off. Yeah, there is a problem apparently with Facebook and Facebook Lives at the moment. Hang in there. Maria thought it was a motel. Maria, that's going back a few years. There used to be a soap opera in the UK called Crossroads. That is really old, Maria. Kerry says, is Hecate associated with the crossroads? Absolutely. She is a goddess of the crossroads, Kerry. Emma loves Labyrinth. Yeah, good film. Love Bowie. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Nikki. Nikki has put a link in for Labyrinth Locator. I'm assuming that tells you where the labyrinths are near you. Fantastic. You might find in Facebook that the links don't work until the live is finished. Jess is going to Glastonbury next weekend. Have a fantastic time, Jess. So in some traditions, you go to the crossroads at midnight to meet Elegba or Ishura, and that's more on the Yoruban type. They aren't deities, they are spirits, really. In others, it's a place sacred to the sun god Ra and to the gods, I can pronounce this, Bahriva, Hermes and Mercury, and of course the goddess Hecate. The crossroads is also a place where hoodoo tricks take place and where spells can be buried to do their thing. It's very, very traditional to bury your spells at a crossroads. Please don't do it if it's a very busy crossroads. Don't be trying to dig up concrete crossroads. You try and find one in your local woods or parks. It doesn't have to be a road that cars can go along. It can be a footpath crossroads, which are actually much easier to work with. A pathway where two dirt tracks cross, or even where a bridge goes across a stream. You've still got that crossroads there. The centre spot is the sweet place to work. It's a good spot to dispose of magic tricks and workings after you've finished with them, including the candle stubs. Please, though, do kind of think about the biodegradable ability, if that's a word, of it all. Therese hasn't watched Labyrinth. Going to rewatch it. Yeah, go. Yeah. Yes, if you look with the Labyrinth one, let me get that back there. If you look in the beginning parts of the film, when all of the goblins are in her bedroom, they're all standing in the doorway. So keep an eye out for that. Leslie says, the witches burned in Paisley, Scotland. Ashes were buried at a crossroads, which is now part of a road in the centre of town. There was a horseshoe placed on the spot to stop the spirits coming back to curse the town. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, it is. Go back through history, and it is a very, very interesting place. Emma has an image of being run down whilst hastily trying to bury a jar. Yeah, please don't bury things at crossroads if it's a busy road. Crossroads are also used in gypsy and folk magic as a place where opportunities meet. Sorry, could you let the dog in? There's a little barking noise from outside. The wind's blowing the door shut and you can't get in. Crossroads were a place where opportunities meet and changes in direction happen. So if you think about it, is a crossroads. It's where you make decisions to go in different directions. And opportunities as well. It is an unpredictable place, though, but it can offer many choices. It's the place where multiple forces come together and anything can happen. It is a place of transformation. To stand in the centre of the crossroads, again, not on a busy road, you will be met with power, potential, and choices. Teresa, yeah, excellent. Teresa lives in a rural area with few roads. You're very lucky. Can I look for crossroads in the wild fields animal trades? Yes, brilliant. That'd be an excellent idea. But it can be pathways as well. It doesn't need to be roads. It can just be dirt tracks or dirt pathways, wherever there is a cross. And again, or a bridge going over a stream. That's the same sort of thing. For healing, take bread and libation to the crossroads, pour out the libation and place the bread on the ground. Turn in all directions, each time making a request for healing and good health, and then return home without looking back. Searching spell, stand in the center of the crossroads. Again, quiet place, please, not a busy intersection. Spin around until you're dizzy and fall down. Please be very careful. The direction your head is in when you land is where you should begin your search. That's a folklore one. I do advise doing that very, very carefully. And to unblock, take your bread and libation to the center of the crossroads. Petition the spirits to unblock your way and remove any obstacles from your path. Leave the offerings and walk away without looking back. I think there's quite a theme here, without looking back at the crossroads. It was a place where people used to meet. It was where travellers sought company, and also where the gallows were that held the corpses left to hang. So huge, huge amounts of info about crossroads. And I've also got a bit here about city crossroads. Because I live on the edge of the city. So, you know, I have lived in a cottage in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere, but that was when I was a lot younger. Every city has its own unique connection to nature. Most cities have a park or a public garden. Mine has trees down some of the streets as well. Most streets, urban streets, have hedgerows as well. It's just about learning about your area and seeking out those natural places. A city which has to adapt to their surroundings. It's about finding the weeds that grow in the cracks of the pavement, or, you know, the walls and the buildings. But every town has a crossroads, not all easily accessible. And I repeat, please don't get run over trying to lift a tarmac in the middle of the city crossroads between the traffic lights. However, if you can find a slightly quieter road, you can take some soil from it. It doesn't have to be right in the middle of the road, obviously, because that would be tarmac, but take some soil from the verge beside it, and then you've got crossroads dirt, which you can use in magic. You can create your own if you've got a space to work on. Take some soil, some sand, or some ground herbs, and make a cross on your floor or your table. Point where the two lines cross is your sweet spot. That's where you can lay your magic. You can leave your spell there. It's about adapting, and it's about making and using things that you have or that you can work with. Sorry, let's catch up with these. Leslie, the horseshoe was stolen in the 1980s. Oh, and all the industry in the area began to close. Yeah, see, that's because the horseshoe was stolen. I wish people would leave things alone. Yeah, Facebook is playing around. Apologies for that. Right, Tess. The healing, bread and libation. What is the stuff you pour out? Does that mean? Oh, okay. Libation is wine, juice, milk, water. It's just a drink that you pour onto the ground. It's an offering, basically. It's an offering of liquid. Wine is the traditional one, but it can be milk or juice. You don't have to apologize for asking questions, and there are no silly questions. That's what I'm here for. That's what we're all here for. If you ask the questions, we all learn. So please never apologize for asking questions. It's that's how we learn things. If you didn't ask, you wouldn't learn, would you? You can make crossroads keys. So it's like a talisman that connects you to a crossroads. You need 2 old keys, preferably, like the skeleton key type. They don't have to be real ones. They can be replica ones. Modern front door keys do work, but not quite as well. So you need your 2 old keys, and you measure a piece of ribbon, red ribbon or wool or red twine, from your heart to the outstretched wrist of your left arm. So from here to there, and you measure that length of red string. Tie the keys together, one on each end. You've got to carry them with you for one full cycle of the moon. Make sure you take them out and handle keys every day, making them connect to your energy. You could even tie pieces of hair to it. The suggestion is also that you spit on them to make your personal connection. Entirely up to you. Once the moon cycle's up, you take a trip to the crossroads. Again, not a busy road. Dig a small hole in the ground at the center of the crossroads. Then you take the two keys that are tied together, you cut the string. You drop one into the hole, but you keep the other key in your hand. You keep it in your left hand, use your right hand to bury the other key. Bury it in the hole, and then take it home. So you've now got a connection to that crossroads. One key is buried at the crossroads, the other one you keep with you. And that's your doorway to the crossroads whenever you need it. Simple, straightforward-ish, an easy way to make a connection. There's lots and lots of history and myths about crossroads. I'm just literally scratching the surface here. Burial mounds are another one. Have a look in your area, see if there are any burial mounds, although please don't disturb any of them. Teresa's asking, is the Kelsby? Yes. Let's get that up. Everything that I'm talking about today is from this one. It's from Witchcraft into the Wilds, because it's all about working magic with nothing, basically. With nothing except that Mother Nature supplies for us. So yes, everything I've talked about today, including the key spell, is in the Witchcraft into the Wilds book. Thank you for asking, Teresa. But yeah, burial mounds, have a look at those. Sacred sites and ruins. Please, I know you will, but please be very conscious about how sacred the sites are, and don't go digging up burial mounds or anything like that. I know you wouldn't. Really. I've got lots of notes here, that's why I'm going through it. Ley lines, and then I'll get on to cemeteries. Ley lines, pathways, they are pathways you can't see. They are strips of energy that cover the country. In fact, they cover the world. There are ley lines right across the world. It's like a whole grid, a whole web across the world. Of energy, sometimes called dragon lines, sometimes called spirit lines, or even song paths, which I think is quite a nice one. Different names, same thing. Always straight and geometric lines that run across the land. They often find they connect with natural or sacred sites, such as long barrows, henges, standing stones, that kind of thing. If you walk across one of these lines, you'll feel it. Knowlton, actually, that we mentioned earlier, down in Dorset, been there for a few rituals, and often in the summer I did it bare feet, and you could feel as you walked across the field when you'd crossed a ley line, because you felt the heat from the ley line under your feet. People often douse for them as well with the dowsing sticks. They are contrary places, or often considered bad luck, actually. They were once thought to be the tracks of religious processions, rites or celebrations. Each one will have its own particular signature. There is a suggestion that some of them are connected to astronomical points. If you lay the map of the ley lines and match it up, you can match it up to the planets. It's all whole sacred geometry comes into that as well. Geometry into that. Astronomy, geometry, all sorts of stuff that makes my head explode. In Australia, the Aborigines believed that the creative gods walked the country, reshaping the land along pathways called turingas. And at certain points in the year, these pathways have energy flowing through them to bring fertility and rebirth to the land. They also believe the lines carry messages. Brilliant. The Incas worked with them as well. They are very magical, and there are lots of places on the internet where you can look up ley lines near you. Obviously, you won't be able to see them, but you should be able to feel them. Leslie, the only lines I've seen at Paris. Yes, Paris has them, doesn't it? Has them actually marked, doesn't it? By the Louvre. Kay is casting from her phone to her TV. Oh, exciting technology. Here we are, Christine. Christine's been to Knowlton, haven't you? As you talk about crossroads, there are ley lines, at Knowlton, actually crossover. Our ancestors built a henge there as they are more in touch with the earth than we are now. Yeah, Knowlton in particular, it's probably the strongest place I've ever felt them. And that was literally walking around the grass on Knowlton barefoot. And you could feel the line coming from the corner of the Saxon church that's there and going across the field. You will feel it. Sue's been to Knowlton as well. Yeah, if you can get to down there, it is a fantastic place. Very interesting. Let's move on. I am only briefly touching on all these subjects so that I can squish it all in. Each one is a huge subject. So if any of them have piqued your interest. Oh, thank you, Kerry and Lizzie. They brought witchcraft into the wilds. Thank you. It is one of my favourites, actually, because it's a lot of how I work. Jessie's thinking of doing a walk with a dog living in Canterbury. Are there any traditional spots? Have a look on the internet, Jessie. Do a search for ley lines in your area or sacred sites in your area. You will get some come up. England is ancient, isn't it? It's got an awful lot of history to it. So there's bound to be something near you. And if all else fails, there's a cemetery or a graveyard or a church. All of them fascinating. And I promise you won't turn into dust when you walk through the doorway of a church. Kay says, are all of these yes, they're all in this one book. Everything I've talked about today is in Witchcraft in the Wilds. Okay, it's all in there. Obviously in more detail. But yes, cemeteries, graveyards, churches. A lot of the churches were built on old pagan sites. So they're all, again, they hold that energy of the ancestors. They hold the memories underneath with it. Graveyard is we probably use the word graveyard and cemetery interchangeably, but they are different. Graveyard is an older term, and it usually refers to a burial ground that's beside a church. You won't generally find a graveyard on its own. It's usually got a church beside it. People were very close to the church. Some of the rich people had crypts inside the church or beneath the church. As the population grew, we needed cemeteries. So a cemetery doesn't usually have a church with it. So the cemetery is on its own, graveyard is beside a church. They are all fascinating places. Cemeteries not so much because they tend to be more modern, but a lot of them have fascinating gravestones. Most of them seem to have very big populations of crows and squirrels. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, are there any known special places in Northampton? Again, just do a Google search, okay, because you will just put sacred sites in Northampton or ley lines in Northampton, and you will get some hits because there's bound to be something. I find graveyards very peaceful and sacred places. They are thresholds between the land of the living and the realm of the dead, obviously. Some of the older spells for protection, banishing, love, and hexes call for the spell remnants to be buried in a graveyard. If you are planning on burying bits and bobs in a graveyard, please be extremely careful about doing it. You don't want to disturb anyone dead or living. You don't want to be disrespectful, and you definitely don't want to get caught, because I'm pretty sure you would get arrested for it. So bear that in mind. They can obviously, unsurprisingly, be full of spirits, ghosts, and spiritual entities. Not all of them have honourable intentions, so tread carefully. But they are immense places of power, but they can be used for good or bad. If you're going to be working spells in a place, I'd highly recommend getting to know it very well first. Spend a lot of time surveying the land, getting to know the area, connecting with the energies, get to know the inhabitants. And by that, I mean the animals, the squirrels, the crows you often find. It is also a threshold. So bear that in mind. A lot of older spells call for graveyard dirt, and it is very magical stuff. you are supposed to take the graveyard dirt from a grave. Some of the spells actually specify how many inches down you're supposed to dig to get the graveyard dirt as well. I think in this day and age, it's probably one of the most difficult ingredients to get because, again, disrespectful and legal. I don't know if it's legal, but it probably is digging up someone's grave. But also be careful who you take the graveyard dirt from. You don't want to be taking graveyard dirt from the grave of a thief or a robber or a murderer. That's not going to help you. If it is a warrior or a soldier, you could use it for confidence or courage, but get to know that grave first and leave an offering. Silver coins are usually a good offering, but please be incredibly respectful and don't get caught. I have another option, which I think is better in this day and age, but bear with me on that one. The cemetery or the graveyard often has gates. Now, the gates are the threshold to the graveyard or the cemetery. So it's a threshold to a threshold. They're often made of iron for good reason. Iron is protective and makes an attempt at keeping out not only humans, but malevolent or unwanted spirits. But the gateway itself is a huge place of power. And I think it's far more suitable and easily accessible to leave spells to do their thing or to dig graveyard dirt from. I think it is the more sensible option. If you want some graveyard dirt, dig it from the threshold, dig it from the gateway that actually leads into the graveyard, rather than poking about on people's graves. But, it's your call. Older the graveyard, the more interesting the graves are going to be, obviously. But even the newer graveyards will have a special sort of energy about them. I think it's your call as to whether there's other things that you can use instead. But if you want graveyard dirt, my recommendation would be to take it from the threshold, to take it from the gateway rather than the individual graves. But it's up to you. Emma has new burial mounds, barrows being created now. That's a cool idea. I like that idea. Churches, cathedrals, always wonderfully profound spaces. I think not a lot of them are old anyway, and they've got that spirituality to them. But a lot of them, again, are built on old pagan sites, so they carry that energy as well. But always lots of crows, lots of squirrels. Karen feeds the crows at her graveyard. Yep. Let's have a look at this one. A bit of forethought. Forethought and common sense. I think that's when when a lot of the spells that were written are from based on folklore, and they're based on older spells when it probably was a lot easier to just dig up some graveyard dirt. Today, it's not that kind of world, really, is it? And I don't want anyone to get into trouble. Trying to sneak into a graveyard and dig graveyard dirt from someone's grave is, tricky, and you don't want to get caught, and you don't want to disrespect those people in the grave either. So for me, taking it from the graveyard gates is a more modern solution, I think. Kerry says some sites sell graveyard dirt. Again, you need to find out where it's sourced from. I wouldn't buy graveyard dirt, to be honest, because I wouldn't want to pay for it. There are lots of other options. As Christine says, Christine gets valerian root, as it's known as graveyard dirt. Yeah, much easier to source and a lot less hassle. Graveyard dirt, could it be from a crematorium? Obviously in a very respectful way. Yeah, I don't see why not. It's just a crematorium is a cemetery. So it is just a graveyard without a church. So yes, probably a lot easier to do it as well. Yes, if you know the person, if it's a grave of your parent or grandparent or something like that, and you're close to them, then but still leave an offering. Still leave an offering there as well. It's all about respect and being sensible, really, I think. it's your call, I think, with any of it, really, and what your practice calls for. You do have to trust your intuition on this. A graveyard dirt is a very useful ingredient, but as I say, there are other options to it. Oh, yeah, no, Kay's just made the point here. So on Facebook, if you're using an older software or not updated software, it won't show the comments. So I am trying to show the comments now or read them out so that you guys can see them first. You will be able to see all the comments after the live has finished, as far as I'm aware. So yes, I'm trying to post them all up now so that you guys can see them. I have, because Sue will tell me off if I don't read it out, I have pulled a Flower Magic card, which is, as happens from the Flower Magic Oracle card, is very apt for the talk today, particularly the graveyard talk. The card is Echinacea, and it's crone magic. There's quite a... Getting the, can you tell I've got a round light behind the computer? You can see the woman on there, I think. She needs a bit of work on her eyeshadow, I think. It's a little bit heavy-handed for me, but Echinacea. Those ones we grew in our garden a couple of years ago. We've got pink ones this year that I grew from seed. Fascinating flower. Obviously, you're probably more well known to you for Echinacea as a supplement for building up your immune system. But it is a fantastic plant, and the bees love it. Now, I've got, Airs has pretty much gone over now, but I've got some drying, and they do look quite creepy. They would make fantastic Samhain decorations. They look a bit like teasels, actually. So that is them all dried. I picked them as they were going over and just left them laid out in the greenhouse, and they've all dried like that. Okay, it says Love Echinacea, didn't know. I associate it with crone magic. These are my meanings from the cards. Echinacea is usually for healing, isn't it? But for me, it's crone magic. I mean, you can't get more crone looking than that, really, can you? So the meaning of the card is the feisty and sometimes grumpy old bint of the goddess world. The crone has a huge resource of magic that she will lend to you if you ask nicely. And I do call her the grumpy old bint because my matron goddess is the Kalak, and she is an old grumpy old bint. And I tell her that, so it's fine. This is about wisdom, ancient knowledge, and a connection to your ancestors. Right now, Crone has some wise words for you. Heed her advice and ignore her at your peril. Listen to the advice, then carefully tap into the power of Echinacea and use it. Sometimes we need help. Occasionally, we need to lean on others. Let them lend you their power. You don't have to do everything on your own. Use the force. That's for Karen, especially that bit. It's written in the book, honest. It is. Use the force. Life is busy. It can be hectic and grueling. This is a reminder that it's okay to focus on yourself. Tap into the crone magic. Step into the stillness of dark and just be. Seek healing energy from deep within. It could be the start of a whole new you. I think as well this is perfect for the time of year, because as in particularly in the southeast England here, autumn is very much well on the way. There we go. And Karen asks, how do you use your dried echinacea? Well, it's funny you should ask. Echinacea, often called the cone flower, and hopefully it is obvious why it's called the cone flower. It lends itself to all kinds of crone magic. Wisdom, inner strength, ancestors, fulfillment, death and rebirth, shadow work and power. Add it to other workings and it will bring a huge boost of power to it as well. Used medically, it boosts your immune system. Therefore, it's excellent for healing magic, especially carried in a pouch. Bring it into the house to draw prosperity and protection. So these could be put in the house to bring in protection. You could grind it up to use in anything, really. Magic powders, witch bottles, pouches, but it's got a huge amount of magical properties. I say wisdom, inner strength, ancestors, fulfillment, death and rebirth, shadow work, power, protection, prosperity. Lots and lots of uses, and really, really good for working with the crone. The name comes from the Greek word ekinos, meaning hedgehog. See, little baby hedgehog. The seed head looks like a hedgehog or apparently a sea urchin. The flower is often used as an offering to the ancestors, spirit of a particular place or river deities. So echinacea is a good one to make as offerings as well. It is a really, really useful plant. I grew the ones we've got this year from seed, but I grew them from seed last year, so they flower the following year. May the force be with you, Karen. Yes, definitely. Yeah, we all need some crone magic, Rhiannon. I've just finished actually a manuscript on the Triple Goddess, and it's interesting. Rhiannon's just said she's in her crone phase, a crone phase. There's no age on moving through the phases of the goddess. There's no set age. You move when you feel it. It's entirely up to you. And that's about it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've got any questions, do ask. Let's say today's was a suggestion. Someone asked me to talk about labyrinths. So if anyone's got any particular subject you would like me to talk about, I will do so. I'm more than happy to do so. Join us on Sunday, this coming Sunday at 7 p.m. UK time in the Kitchen Witch Coven Facebook group. We've got an online autumn equinox ritual. So do join us for that. I'll be back every Friday as usual. We've got some more Waffling Witches lined up and Samhain bits and pieces, so keep an eye out for those. Every Wednesday over on the Moonbooks Facebook page, we've got different authors giving talks, so have a look out for those as well. The replays are all on the page as well. So that's it, really. If you've got anything you want me to talk about, do let me know. Lots of links coming up in the comments. If you couldn't see the comments during the live chat, have a look once the replay comes up, because all the comments should hopefully appear then. But thank you, as always, for joining me. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will catch up with you soon.